purpose of this video is to walk you through this problem we went through in class, which was to determine whether the company should sell or process this chemical that they create as a part of their manufacturing process using incremental analysis. So I've set the problem up down below here so you can see there's two options. The company can either sell the products as they are or process them further. I'm not going to read entirely through this problem. You can do that on your own time, but basically what happens is the company produces two separate chemicals out of their manufacturing process. Every batch they process creates 13,000 gallons of product, and 25% of that product is methanol, 75% is turpentine. So what I've done over here, you can see, is the total batch will yield 13,000 gallons. And we know of that 13,000 gallons, 75% of it will be turpentine, which is 9,750 gallons, and 25% will be methanol, so 3,250 gallons. So I'm first going to look at my revenues and determine which is greater, whether I sell it as is or process it further. So if I sell the products as they are, which would be this right here, methanol of 3,250 gallons and turpentine of 9,750, we're told in the problem methanol sells for $20 a gallon. And we're told that turpentine right here sells for $15 a gallon. So my revenue for turpentine, if I took the 9,750 gallons times $15, is $146,250. For methanol, it's the 3,250 times the $20, $65,000. So if I sell it as is, my revenue will be those two added together, $211,250. But if I process this product further, what we're told down here is that when we process it further, the methanol only turns into an alcoholic beverage. So this turpentine still has 9,750 gallons sold for $15 a gallon. So we'd still have this much revenue from the turpentine, but the methanol turns to alcohol, a drinkable alcohol. And there'll be 3,250 gallons of the drinkable alcohol, and the problem tells us they sell for $45 a gallon. So my revenue now for the alcohol is $146,250, and I can't sell the methanol if I turn it into alcohol. So the total revenue, if I process the product further, is the turpentine, because I'd still get turpentine, and the alcohol. So my revenues are significantly higher. But we need to look at the costs that are incurred to process it further. The problem tells us that we have joint costs of $116,000 per batch. That means when I make this entire 13,000 gallon batch of product, it costs me $116,000, and I can't really distinguish how much of that 116 goes to turpentine and how much goes to methanol. So we call that a joint cost. So I'm going to put right here that we have $116,000 of costs, regardless of whether we process it further or sell it as is. Now, when I get the product to this state in the production process where it's not yet finished, but it's needs to be processed further, I take the methanol and I say, okay, I have 3,250 gallons of methanol, and I have to pay $2 a gallon to turn it into the methanol, and I have to pay an additional $6 a gallon to turn it into alcohol. So my process costs, that's what these are referring to, are those costs per gallon. To turn the methanol into methanol, you take 3,250 gallons times this $2 that we got right here. So $6,500 to turn the methanol into methanol. Now when you process it further, you still need to take and turn the methanol into methanol, so I multiply it by $2. So it really is no different between the two alternatives. But and so let's look at the turpentine. The turpentine, we have 9,750 gallons, and it costs $1 to turn it into usable turpentine. And that's the same regardless of whether we turn the methanol into alcohol or not. So if we sell it as it is, we're not going to turn it into alcohol, so there's no cost there, and there are no consumption taxes or alcohol tax that the problem tells us here. So my total cost, my total cost to sell it as is $132,250. So my profit to sell it as is 211,250 minus the 132,250. So that's my profit if I do nothing. But if I process it further, I have to turn these 3,250 gallons into the drinkable alcohol at an additional $6 per gallon. So there's my additional cost. Plus I have to pay 20% on the alcoholic beverage. So I take this revenue for the alcohol only and multiply it by 20%. I don't multiply the turpentine by 20% because that's not an alcoholic beverage and it's not subject to the same taxes. So my costs to process it further are 181. My total profit to process it further is 111,500. So based simply on the financial analysis, the company should process the chemicals further into a drinkable alcohol because they will increase their profit by approximately $30-some thousand.